Hello, welcome to Ask Joel. I don't even know anymore, folks, but it's really good to have you here because this week we've got a question, and it's a question that I sometimes get in comments, and it's a question that sometimes I get from young people and old people and all kinds of people who are looking to follow God's plan for your life. And it's actually pretty simple. If God has a plan for my life, what if I ruin it? I used to think when I was young that God had this big blueprint for my life. This is serious. That was kind of a roadmap. And that's the path I was supposed to take. And if I did something to deviate from it, he would rip it up and be like, oh, you're off the path. Everything's just whatever. Just do whatever you will because it's all over anyway, right? And maybe you've ever had an experience like that where you did ruin something, where you blew a chance, where your opportunity was gone, it was missed, and everything fell apart. Sometimes we can think about that with God's plan for our life. It's really stressful, isn't it? When we think oh man, I've got to figure out what my vocation is. Am I supposed to get married, be a priest, be religious? Am I just supposed to hang out as a single person? Am I supposed to do service? Am I supposed to do mission work? Am I supposed to go to college? All of those things can get overwhelming, especially when we add the little ingredient in that and God has a perfect plan for you. I want to know what the perfect plan is. Don't you? Don't you want to know what God's perfect plan is for your happiness? I'll tell you. Here's the secret. God's plan is for your holiness. And that maybe isn't what you were hoping to hear. Here's the reality. Our life is going to have twists and turns, and our life interacts and interfaces with other people's lives. And they can make decisions, and so can we. And it can get really stressful when we start to think, oh man, what if I do something that ruins God's perfect plan? God makes all things work for the good with those who love him. It says that in Romans chapter 8. I think it's a pretty cool verse because it basically means this: nothing you do in your life, so long as you are striving to live out a relationship with Jesus Christ through his church, is going to mess things up. Now, you might do some things that ruin some opportunities. Maybe God has one thing in mind, but then you sin. And because of your sin, it kind of closes that door. That doesn't mean that life is over. It just means God says, okay, let's reroute and find another path to your holiness and ultimately to your fulfillment. Maybe something happens that somebody else does that ruins an opportunity. The bass player in your band decides he's going to quit, and God was like, you were going to be famous, but now your bass player quit. So new plan, right? Because our lives are not this static thing. They're dynamic. And at the end of that journey, the one thing God is trying to get you towards is heaven. And God's going to take any means necessary to help that happen for you. But we have to be moving in step and seeking out what God's plan is for us today. And I think that's a better way to live, to say, Lord, what do you need from me today? It's good to look ahead. It's good to plan, but it's good to be flexible with those plans, but always keeping them rooted in, Lord, what do you want from me today? I can live that out. And if I live out your will today, then I can live it out tomorrow, and I can plan for the next week and the next month, and whatever comes my way, I'll be ready to be the holiest version of who I can be and be continually journeying to heaven. I might not know the exact path, and I don't need to. I just trust that, Lord, with your grace, you're going to get me there. So can you do something that would ruin God's plan for your life? Short answer, yes. That thing that you do that you decide you really don't want to turn back to God from. The moment we stop trusting in God in our lives just because maybe we feel like I've blown all my chances, I've sinned too much, that's the moment that we maybe ruin God's plan because we no longer are seeking holiness. And that's God's ultimate plan for you. If you have a question, leave it in the comment section below. Subscribe to Life Teens channel on YouTube to see your question get answered and to see all of the other great content we throw up here. Make sure that you give this video a like and share it with a friend who's maybe a little bit concerned, too concerned perhaps, about fulfilling God's perfect plan for his or her life. And then come on back here every single week where we've got more of your questions on Ask Joel.